Good afternoon and welcome to the Smashing Times Film Festival. Welcome. My name is Aoife McNamara and I'm the Participation and Rights Education Coordinator in the Ombudsman for Children's Office. And we're delighted to finally present our film Direct Division. So Direct Division is a short documentary film featuring children describing in their own words their experiences of living in direct provision. It gives insight into their past journeys, current life, and hopes for the future. The film highlights how rights and the lives of these children are affected by the direct provision system in Ireland. Direct provision amplifies the voices of children who are seldom heard. It allows children living in direct provision to talk about their experiences in their own words. The children's identity are protected due to the sensitive nature of the content. The film is an output of a consultation held by the Ombudsman for Children's Office, and the film is made by Ganzi. So we'll be delighted to show this to you this evening. So you can roll the film.
I came from Syria. I came from the worst conditions. And I'm so more than grateful that I'm here. I thank God every single day that I'm here. I just love being here. Even though these people are making it miserable sometimes, they do all these things but I'm grateful. Like imagine being scared to go to school. Imagine being scared of getting bombed or shot or kidnapped. So I'm more than grateful that I'm here.
Weather loosens and breaks up the rocks of the Earth's surface. This loose, weathered surface is called regolith. This loose, weathered surface is called regolith. Regolith moves down slopes under the influence of gravity, and this action is known as mass movement. So this action is known as mass movement. So weathering loosens and breaks up the rocks of the Earth's surface. This loose, weathered surface is called weathered surface is called regolith. Regolith moves down slopes under the influence of gravity, and this action is known as mass movement. So this action is known as mass movement. Weathering loosens and breaks up the rocks of the Earth's surface.
I would like people to know that as asylum seeker, we don't have a good life.
I don't blame people for not knowing about direct provision. It's embarrassing for us to explain what it's all about. So if we don't explain to them, who is going to explain to them? Because we are the only one experiencing this. The government, they know what it is, but they're not feeling it the way we're feeling it. I feel discriminated in school, especially when people don't know where I live and how does it work. I don't know how to explain, because at the end of the day, people will end up asking you where do you live, like as a simple question, not by trying to know who you are or wanting to know about your life. Maybe, oh, there's something going on in such a place. Oh, if you want a lift, can I go to your place? I'll say no, but why? You can't tell the person that you live in direct provision. Like, it just
makes you feel like, I just wonder, like, why are they doing this to us? Like, we're not animals.
So, who's next? Let me see. Mark. Mark, tell us your plans for the summer. I bet you've got some amazing things planned.
I'm going to France with my friends for the summer for a few weeks.
Ooh, France, very nice. Have you been before?
Yeah, I went to twice.
Okay, well enjoy that. Bring us all back a present. Let me see, who's next? Obi. Obi, what about you? What are your plans for this summer?
Don't know.
Nothing? No big ideas? Nothing fun organised?
Maybe play basketball.
Okay. All right, that's grand. Let me see. Stephen, tell us next. What are your plans for this summer?
In school, I have no friends because they just discriminate. They say, oh, black is bad, black is this, black is that. Or you live in direct provision. You have no right to the society. You're just supposed to be in a cage. You should be fed food, like wrong food, like food that should be given to animals. So you should not be here. You should not go to school. You should just be in a cage and just leave you there and forget you there.
Sometimes when I go out, I'm embarrassed to tell where I live. It's like kind of hard to explain because I feel safe. But when I go out and someone asks me, where do you live? I feel embarrassed to tell them. Once I told a friend, and this friend told me, oh, but I don't understand why you are there. And then Irish people just pay for you to be there. And you guys don't do anything, you don't work, but we have to pay for you. And it's like, I felt really sad for that comment she said. So that's why I feel embarrassed to tell them that I live there.
She fails no way. Did she actually? Yeah. Can't believe it. I haven't even told my mom yet. I've never failed an English exam before. Sure, you'll be grand if I was like, oh no. No, you're facing me. I am facing you, and so does yours. Kira, it's on the table.
All right. Right, well, are we still on for town on Saturday?
Yeah, definitely. I just have to mind my little sister, so I'll let you know what time I can get in for.
Ring me on your way in.
Grand, yeah.
Do you want me to drop you home?
No, you're grand. I'll just hop on a bus.
Where's the call?
We don't have privacy there, like everything, our life is exposed.
I just feel like I'm in a jailhouse or something, cause like it's like someone's watching my every move, like everything I do is just can't really do anything. There's like they've been putting like loads of cameras in, and it's just not like I don't understand why they would put more cameras in when there's like already like 100 cameras. Like don't get the point of it.
It's hell. Like, it's my mom is stressed out, and I have no father. I have four siblings, and my mom has to take care of all of us.
So direct provision is not a good place for like children, youth to be around because it's kind of like traumatizing. Like before you get to where we live, there's a giant gate in the front, and it's like far from where we live, so it's like really like trapped.
It doesn't feel nice because like we just don't feel free as children, because like I also have baby sisters, and it's not nice for them to be like at home all the time. They're kids, they're supposed to be free and be kids like.
Yeah, no, I'm talking the first time she caught me there. The second time it was Dave.
Gonna go for a kick a bit?
I'm on the phone. Dave was talking the second time. I didn't want to snitch on him because I didn't want him to get in trouble. I got sent to detention. Yeah, I've already been there.
It's boring. I have to wake up in the morning, take a shower, eat, go to school, and come back and do my homework, and it's the same. There's no good news, there's no bad news, it's just the same 24/7.
We basically do the same thing every single day. Go to school, come back, homework, sleep, every single day. And for people that had like a proper routine before coming here is mad.
Everyone stays at home. You will never see anyone outside. And there used to be fights and all, and just people like they just gave up. They said everyone stay at home, so no one goes outside. And I can go to town with my friends because, you know, my parents won't let me in, and they'll be like, you're not safe and stuff like that. So I literally just stay at home, go on my phone, like talk to my sister, do what I can do. Like,
you can hear everything from your room into the hallways, from outside into your room, and when people are trying to sleep inside the room, all you hear is kids crying if they live next door. I have woken up at 12 o'clock at night and then not gone to bed for like 4 in the morning on a school night because of kids crying next door. That kept waking me up.
We would like to interact with other people because like we're trapped basically, and we need to be freed.
I just really want people to understand that it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of teenagers writing forms and doing all of that for their parents because their parents, let's say, don't speak English, so they can do it. It's a lot of stress for people, you know, to have to go through that and have to worry every day. And a lot of people fall into depression. A lot of people fall into anxiety. A lot of people, you know, get like, you know, clinically depressed or have mental issues because of problems like that. So it's something that people should really kind of tread on lightly rather than, you know, thinking, oh, they're here for their own benefit. Nobody's going to put themselves in that much danger to cross a border, and nobody's going to put themselves in that much stress for simply stealing 38 euros a week. It does nothing.
Some of my friends make fun of me. They call me poor, and they said that I'm in this country legally. Sometimes I usually hit them or because of them. It just makes me angry.
I got up off my ass to shift countries and have a life. From everything I knew to another country I fully dive. The chances of me staying here is a literal flip of dice. I'm tired of sitting down and listening to your lies. The anger being condensed and stuffed inside my heart and the system before I level mark. I've seen the bark, I've seen the bite, I've seen the sparks that fire ignite. You know I'm tired of eating your fries. I've heard what people like. I wonder how do you even sleep at night?
I've been in Ireland for 5 years now, and I've been in direct provision for like 5 years right now, and it's really painful. I have to watch my mom go through a lot of pain every day, and it's just not really good because like it's not safe for her. Like it's not good as she's aging, and to watch her just suffer all the time and just sit at home and not do anything is just painful. It's the living conditions. She doesn't get to work. She's not allowed to drive. She has to stay at home and not do anything. And she does get bored, and sometimes she just has stress because like her family back in Africa will also be asking for help, and she can't do anything about it. So like I feel sorry for her most of the times.
These, please. I'll just pay for it. Yeah, please. मम्मा ग्रोसरी लेकर आ गई हूँ बजा बजा के तालियां
You can't even pay for like your own family stuff, and then you have to worry about your kids going to school. Because I'm gonna be going to college next year, and I don't even know how I'm gonna get there. Because like even one of my teachers told me that I should think of just taking a gap year and waiting if like I get my papers, because it's gonna be very hard for me. So yeah, well obviously it makes me feel sad and horrible, because I actually do want to go to college. I don't want to take a gap year. I want to have the same amount that everyone has.
We live like an hour away from the town, so like it's hard to like get to town, and like the transport ends around like 5 o'clock. So like most of our training sessions can be around like 7 or something. So that means we'll have to like walk down for our training sessions, and afterwards we'll be so tired to be coming back, and sometimes we might even not be able to get the bus after school because there won't be enough space for everyone. If they could at least give us better chances and like better living spaces than we do.
Where are they?
Where what?
My boots.
I haven't seen them.
Obi, You're like 20 minutes late. I'll bring you on in a while. Stay warm. Yeah, play in, let's go. Yeah. Okay, Obi, you're coming on. Yes, Kate.
He's right there running that line.
And finish.
Yes. Alins.
Yeah.
Keen, pass the ball.
Yeah, I am passing.
Bibs, guys. Cones, thanks, yeah. All the orange bibs can go there, all the blue ones can go there. They take the points off the other teams or they give us the points, yeah. You're right about that, Ryan. Yeah, I spotted that myself.
They gave us the points.
So would I. It'd look a bit better on the table, wouldn't it? Okay, lads, we'll see you on Monday, yeah? Very good. See you next Monday, lads, all right?
See you.
Hey, Obi, make sure you're on time next week.
We don't get the same amount of opportunities as everyone does, which makes it hard for us to like prosper and get better and stuff.
I have to worry about, okay, I might not be able to go to the Debs and I'm in 6th year, you know. It's one thing that, you know, it's your last year. I might not be able to go to the Debs. I might not be able to go to the grad. I might not be able to go to these things. And like, because it's not only about paying for the ticket, it's the dresses and the makeup and the hair and all of that. And all of that money adds up, plus, you know, having to pay for mock papers, plus having to pay for CAO, plus having to worry about colleges and stuff like that. So it's just tread lightly when you're really talking about asylum seekers and treating them differently, because they have their own stress that they're going through and there's no need for you to add to that.
What about this? Oh my god, okay, show me this one.
Ah.
Show me this, here you go. Oh, that's so cute. Oh my god, okay, I love that.
Zoom into.
How do I zoom?
Look, grab your fingers. Look. It's the same as any phone. Look, yeah.
Oh my god, look at this, and they match my
Put it up,
hijab,
put it
don't
up.
they? Look at that. How do I know? Here today, what are we doing? Shopping! Woo! And for what? Devs. Devs, exactly, we're Devs shopping. So I'm gonna try
Oh,
over.
hello. Who are you?
How do I like because this girl is so demanding.
taking so long.
Yeah, we've been waiting here for a while now. Oh, there she's gone. There she's gone.
The way I'm living now, it's kind of hard, even for my family, because we don't know if we're staying here or we're going back to our country. If we go there, there's gonna be a lot of more problems, and I hope it's gonna be great and Ireland will love us and the people here.
Just thank you to everyone who helped us.
बोल बकारे बूर से आपका थाली में प्याली में दे आयशा को प्याली गई दूध आयशा गई रूठ लाएंगे भाई लाएंगे बजा बजा के तालियां बजा बजा के तालियां
Wow. Every time I watch it, I'm a little bit blown away by the heartbreaking beauty and the power of the film. So thank you so much to Graham CD and Carmel Corrigan for joining us to really discuss and unpick this beautiful film. I wonder if I can start off with you, Carmel, and maybe you could give us a little bit of a background to both the Ombudsman for Children's Office and then the consultation with children living in direct provision.
Yeah, sure. Well, the Ombudsman for Children's Office opened its doors in 2004. We're a statutory independent body. We have really two main functions. One is to investigate complaints into the poor administration or maladministration of public bodies. If it affects children and affects children negatively, we can accept complaints on behalf of or from children and investigate those and try and come to some resolution or redress. And then our second broad function is to promote and protect the rights of children in Ireland, and that means the rights that they have under the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And one way we do that is to hear what children have to say, to raise their voices, amplify their voices, bring their messages, their concerns and their views to those who are in a position to change things for the better for them. So that's the office. A bit of the background to the film, I suppose, is that in 2017, our remit in relation to children living in direct provision was clarified by the then Minister for Justice, Francis Fitzgerald. And that opened the door to our complaints function for children or on behalf of children living in direct provision or in the international protection system. And as part of our work from 2017, we started a programme of workshops in direct provision centres with children to raise their awareness of their own rights, to make sure that they had some knowledge of what they were entitled to under the convention. And those conversations really led us down the road of this major consultation, which, because children had a lot to say, they had views on a lot of things, they had a very wide range of experience to share with us. So in 2019, we decided that we would undertake this consultation with children in direct provision, and with assistance from 9 centres, from what was then RIA, what is now IPAS, and from some really supportive people working in the local communities. We managed to get 73 children to talk to us in focus groups about how they were experiencing their rights, what was good, what was bad, what they felt, how they felt included, how they felt excluded, and the impact that living in direct provision and seeking international protection had on their lives. And those children were living in both direct provision centres and also in EROC centres, which, for just people who don't know the difference, EROC centres are largely where invited refugees, what we used to call programme refugees, reside. So a lot of them would have come from Syria during the war and after the war in Syria. So we held focus groups in each of the 9 centres, at least 2 focus groups in each, and then one big day of creative activity, which is where I think it's important to say that the interviews that you see on the film, all of those beautiful silhouettes of children speaking, they are children who took part in this consultation, who agreed to be interviewed in profile by Graham and his colleague Tim. And that is their words, their stories, and their experiences.
Wonderful, thank you, Carmel. I think that gives us a really nice background, and it's very clear and how the Ombudsman for Children evolved in their process to eventually come to do this consultation with children. So I wonder then, Graham, if you could kind of tell me then where you came in and what your role was in this process then.
Yeah, well, when we first heard about the project, we were, immediately taken with it, because I suppose direct provision is one of these things that you can kind of hear a lot of people talking about, but it's less common to hear people's direct experiences. So even aside from kind of making a video or a film, myself and Tim were quite excited to actually just talk to people who are living in these conditions and to get their own perspectives, just on a personal level, again, because it's something you hear so much about. It was interesting for me to kind of frame it. So then, the original idea was to make a short 3-minute video that would accompany the report that the Ombudsman for Children put out, direct provision or direct division. And so, in the process of doing those interviews, we realized that there was kind of material for something longer, that it almost felt wrong to just have a video where we just take kind of lines here and there, and that the stories that they were telling were so compelling that we thought it would fit into a kind of a longer form video, But the actual process itself was very interesting because, as you say, the Ombudsman had spoken to children, these children beforehand, and they had agreed to being interviewed, but we were still anxious about how to kind of put them at ease and how to kind of best facilitate in a calm environment, that a safe environment, how best to facilitate doing these interviews. So we'd actually on the day when we were meeting them, we spent the kind of first half of the day workshopping what is an interview and getting the kids used to kind of cameras and lights, and me and Tim, doing the interviews. So the way we did it was, instead of going straight into it, we kind of we set up lights and cameras for the children and told them that they can interview themselves and put the camera about whatever topic they want, and put the cameras wherever they want, and the lights, and we'd help them on technical things like this is the on button and this is the off button, but that's it. And so, I mean, it's great footage. It would never be, released. It was purely a practice, but it was great to see how quickly the guys got into it, and they had a bit of fun. But also interesting is that straight away, even in that workshop hypothetical process, a lot of the themes that came up in the film and in the interviews came up straight away, which kind of shows how anxious the guys were to talk about this and to get their story out, so that was just a process to demystify, because it can be quite intimidating when there's kind of lights and microphones and people who you've only just met, asking you questions about some very difficult personal issues. So that's how we approach that. And we just thought it was important to kind of involve the children in the process, So that was the kind of starting point for the interviews.
That's beautiful. I love that approach.
If I could just add to that, Eva, that I do think, and I think it was a really big issue, that we asked the children during the initial
focus groups with them, how they wanted their message to get out, how they wanted to creatively, to tell their stories in a creative way that wasn't just words on the page of a report. And by far the method that was most frequently mentioned was filmmaking, and they really wanted to make a film, to make a video that captured it in some way. So, I mean, as Tim said, as Graham said, I think they were really anxious to tell their story, but this was the way they wanted to tell it. And I think that was critically important to it. The other thing, and Graham, you're going to, I don't know whether you want me to say this or not, but I'm going to say it, is I think one of the things that worked really well is that when the children came together in two groups to do these interviews and make this documentary film, I think what was really important in it was that both Graham and his colleague Tim, they just got involved with the group as soon as they arrived. There was no kind of, there's the documentary makers over there and here are the young people over here. I'm sure, Graham, you can remember various activities that involved rolling around on the floor in various locations with icebreakers. But, the fact that Graham and Tim, I think, got so involved from the very get-go with the children who were there, gave them the freedom and the license to then, and settled them and made them feel like, yes, these are people that we can talk to, we can trust. And of course, we were always around and they'd met us 2 or 3 times, so there was a bit of ease with that as well. But I do think there's a lot to be said for the fact that the filmmakers, if we said, okay, we're doing icebreakers, we're doing a code of behavior, we're doing, Graham and Tim were there all the time through that, engaged, participated, and it really helped, I think, the children to see them as confidence, as allies.
Yeah, I think you can really tell that from the film, the trust that the children have obviously placed in Graham and Tim and in the OCO to tell such brutally honest and sometimes harrowing accounts of their lives. And definitely that's clearly done through trust. So well done, fair play. Um, we have a question here coming in. The person has said, it's an extremely powerful film and a must watch for everyone in Ireland. And they're wondering if we could speak about the impacts on children's rights while living in direct provision. So, Carmel, maybe you would be best placed to take that. What rights are affected by living in direct provision?
Yeah, and again, we take this from the children's words and the children's views on their rights, and a lot of them, there are many rights that they talked about, but I suppose the ones that come to mind are privacy, that they have their right to privacy is undoubtedly absolutely minimised, if not entirely discarded when living in direct provision, because they tend to live in very overcrowded centres, very overcrowded rooms. You sometimes have entire families sharing one room, or you have families of maybe 5 or 6 in a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're very much live on top of each other. So privacy is a big thing. They simply don't have privacy. Their right to education is limited by, either the system not understanding their needs, teachers not understanding their needs, resources not being made available in a way that they can understand, particularly when they start into either school or then the big leap into secondary school. The big one, I think, probably is non-discrimination, because almost all of the children reported incidents of racial abuse or sectarian abuse, or both, while they were living in direct provision. And it, in some ways, very startling that there seemed to come in their stories a big leap between primary and secondary school. That they didn't experience in primary school. When they moved into secondary school, it became much more obvious. And then linked to that is the whole issue of safety, where they feel very identifiable, either because of the color of their skin or religious dress, and that attracts both racism and sectarianism, and they feel unsafe in a lot of circumstances because of that. And that has a whole lot of knock-on effects then in relation to their inclusion, their isolation, and their feelings of safety and security here. And while almost all of the children said, we feel safe here, they feel safe from the threat that calls them to leave their country of origin. But that's a different thing to feeling a personal safety. So I think those are probably the big ones. And also, sorry, and I will just finish on this one, is the right to be heard, because they don't have opportunities to engage in participative structures. Those that say that the management of centres meet with them will say they let us talk, but they don't listen. Nothing ever changes, nothing ever happens. And then because of both their geographical and their social isolation, they don't get to participate in community structures either, in Faroiga or in Corla or Lottles, because they're so geographically isolated and they're also socially isolated.
Yeah. What I love about the film is the fact that you can see all of those rights played out. So when you're talking about privacy, we have those beautiful scenes of CCTV and the cameras, and it's clear that education is an issue when we see the girl who's doing her homework on her bed, and very clearly through the OB story with that long isolating walk and getting involved in those community structures, like all of those rights are very beautifully depicted and sensitively depicted in the film. And I suppose film is obviously a really powerful tool of telling human rights stories. But I wonder, Graham, if you can tell me, like, how do you balance that storytelling aspect and the creative side of things with that need for sensitivity and accuracy around these children's stories? And like, you've managed to achieve it beautifully. So I wonder what the balance is.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's a tricky balance, and just on the issue, even of the last question and going to the kind of, taking a rights-based approach. That was kind of one of the first things we thought about when. So just to go back, basically, it was when we decided that it has to be that these stories should get out in the kind of longer form, as you see, where it's kind of more unfiltered from the children than what we'd done originally. We then had to decide, well, how is this watchable? So obviously the children's identities are being protected and they are in silhouette, but that means we lose a little bit of the kind of what would usually be the human connection when you watch a film, is seeing the eyes and people's faces and the emotion on their face and so on. So first thing there is we had to decide on a kind of a structure that would work, and one thing to do would be to kind of just have shots and have the voices over different shots of them doing their thing, of them basically illustrations of what they're talking about. But we kind of moved away from that fairly quickly because we didn't want to kind of undermine the power of the actual testimonies themselves by making it, it might make it an easier watch, but you run the risk of almost, diminishing the impact of what they're saying, or even commodifying the children by kind of putting them into a package that's more consumable. So, and then we didn't want to literally, so then we came with this idea of having kind of the narrative scenes in chunks alongside chunks of the testimonies that are relatively unfiltered, which then we had to decide, I suppose, on you know, we didn't want to have literal scenes that just literally, you know, reenact what the children are talking about, because we wanted the scenes to be fairly universal to the experiences that at least were told to us in the course of the interviews. So that's why it was important. It's not, you know, this isn't this person now going and you know, studying at the end of their bed, whatever. So we just kind of picked the themes that came up the most. And yeah, going back to the last question of, you're talking about rights, you know, we were kind of trying to tie it into overall, there's like the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, is it, where there's like moral, physical, spiritual, mental, and physical rights, and you know, when they're being denied, what kind of impact that has. So that was one way that we kind of went, because there's so many stories and there was so much footage, so we were trying to kind of break it down into discernible chunks, and that was one approach we took. And so yeah, so from there we just tried to keep it universal. We didn't want any of the scenes to be more dramatic than anything that the children spoke about. We thought that what they say should be more, you know, should have more weight than the actual scenes that we film ourselves. Again, so as not to detract from their experiences and their testimonies, you know. So we so yeah, we just try to keep it universal. The themes that came up again and again and again were boredom and isolation and of just feeling, you know, kind of like they're going behind in school and classwork and things like that, as well as missing out on kind of key milestones in life. And you know, there too, that were more literal towards the end, which is either kind of feeling that you're not, it sounds small to us, but it's obviously a huge impact for these children. Things like, oh, well, I'm not, you know, football is an important outlet for me and I'm not doing it well there because, you know, I'm having to walk so far to get to training. Or things like, you know, the Debs, a huge milestone in someone's social life. And they only have one chance of it, and just to you know, the feeling that they're missing out. So yeah, so it was tricky to pitch, but and again, the other thing is of how to kind of depict boredom without inducing boredom. Yeah. And that's obviously a very fine balancing act. You know, you want to try and evoke the atmosphere, you know, without just completely, you know, sending everyone to sleep, you know. But again, you know, you don't want to just like have a shot of someone going, ugh, and then move on, you know. So you have to try and get that atmosphere. And ultimately, I suppose that was the main thing we were trying to do with those scenes. It's just to create the atmosphere and the world and to contextualize some of these stories without detracting from them, you know.
Yeah, well, I think that really comes across that it's not exploitative, and it is led and guided by these children in their story, and that human rights approach that you've taken is beautiful, and you can see that throughout, that there is a real respect for these children's voice and their views within this. I suppose kind of a question to both of you is, how really did COVID impact the filming, and then similarly then how did COVID impact the children living in direct provision then? So if you can just quickly answer that, and we have another question to go.
Sorry, I'll take the second part first, because I can't speak to, well, I know some of the problems it created for Graham, but certainly not all of them. I mean, direct provision, or sorry, COVID quite literally exacerbated everything that the children were experiencing before COVID, and exacerbated what we saw were very negative impacts on children who weren't living in direct provision. You know, the sense of isolation because they couldn't leave their centres, or they couldn't leave their campuses. So the sense of isolation became much, much stronger. Their exclusion from education became much greater because they either didn't have the technological hardware, or they didn't have the broadband to engage in online education. Overcrowded living conditions became much more intense because, of course, they weren't going to school every day. They didn't have that respite. Their parents didn't have that respite. Family didn't have that respite. So it undoubtedly exacerbated family relationships, etc. The fact that the boredom became much greater. You know, all of the things that we saw that negatively impacted on the general population of children was just exacerbated um, far more for children who were living in direct provision centres, and really exacerbated issues that they were having prior to COVID striking us, you know, and because they live in such close quarters with their families, of course, their concern over spreading COVID, catching COVID, spreading COVID was very, very high for them. So there were a lot of issues that became worse during COVID for them.
Mm. And so you went back to talk to some of those children, is that correct, Carmel?
Yes, we went back and we spoke to a small number of the children that had taken part in the original consultation, and we spoke to them in depth about their living conditions and their concerns during COVID and during lockdown. And there's a second report on our website about children's voices in direct provision during COVID. That's there, and it's on the OCO website for anyone that wants to link into it.
Excellent, thank you. And Graham, then, just to pick up on that, you must have had a bit of a nightmare with trying to complete a film in lockdown. How was
Yeah.
that? How'd it go?
Well, it was difficult. I mean, you know, yeah, I'd always be aware. I mean, just for the points that Carmel touched on there, I mean, it was kind of foremost to my mind throughout the entire kind of early COVID period of how these children must be living there. So you can't ever feel too sorry for yourself when, you know, because, you know, these people in direct provision, I mean, the environment is just going to magnify all the things that we found so difficult about that period. So, you know, but in saying that, it was difficult because like we were ready to go just before it hit. We were pretty much ready to go before all various lockdowns, and then just with the information coming through and various delays happening, and then actors you know, hitting puberty and no longer being you know, the right age group, or, you know, looking completely different and having to recast. And then in terms of locations as well, just, you know, usually you can get, there's a lot of goodwill for this type of project, and people are, you know, more than willing to help out, I find, in my experience doing previous things that are similar. But of course, when there's COVID, people are not taking, you know, film crews into kind of classrooms and gyms and things like this, you know, as well as, and things like extras and you know, filling it out. We had to rewrite basically to go over the script and just kind of go to what are the core components that we feel that we want to get across here, and where can we kind of scale things back to make it more manageable. And after that, it was just a lot of waiting, same as everyone, for their own reasons, just looking at deadlines and you know, restrictions lifting and then coming back, and, you know, how many people can you have in a room and so on. So most of the filming actually happened, you know, quite recently, really. You know, we were doing like a day of outside stuff here, but then it was really just until, you know, and also safety is, it's not just a matter of like us being frustrated with the restrictions. It's just, you know, it's just safety for everyone involved in it and the actors, and you don't want to expose anyone or put them in a situation where they might feel they're at risk, you know. So we waited until kind of, you know, fairly recently, and just were very well prepped and were able to shoot really quick and edit it really quickly because we'd spent so long thinking about
Excellent.
it.
Well done, though. So Carmel, I've left a nice hard question here to the end, and we don't have much time
Okay.
left. But I'm wondering really, like, what are the next steps for the government in ending direct provision. We learned from the film that we still have, over 2,000 children living within direct provision, but that the government has made a commitment to end it. So, what are the next steps for the government, and how do we ensure then that children's voices are heard as the system of direct provision as we know it comes to an end?
Well, just to be clear about this, the government published a white paper in February that said they would end the current system of direct provision by the end of 2024. Now, we're heading rapidly towards the end of 2021, and we're 9 months past the publication now of the white paper. And what the government really needs to do now is get on with implementing the changes that it has identified in the white paper, which include very much, they include shortening the time spent in reception centres, improving the supports and the assessments and the education that's provided in the reception centres. And I think the biggest change is that it involves moving people who are seeking, and we have to remember, people are seeking protection when they come here as asylum seekers. They're seeking international protection. That is their international right. We have committed to that. The biggest change, and I think possibly one of the biggest protective factors in all of this, is the moving into communities. The provision of own door accommodation in communities spread across the country rather than in communal settings. I think that's the biggest single change that will certainly help normalise life for these children and their families. As you say though, and as it says in the film, until that system ends, children will continue to live in and will continue to be born into direct provision. And the government needs to address issues now that we've already highlighted, along with others, we've highlighted in our own direct division report. They need to address educational deficit. They need to improve understanding and combat racism, bullying and sectarianism in schools, in particular where children spend a lot of their time. They need to address the delays in the direct provision system so that people and children in particular spend a lot less time in direct provision. And they need to start looking at the standards of accommodation and supports that people will continue to live with until this system ends. In terms of how children's voices are heard, hearing children's voices when they are, in fact, and pardon the irony of the expression, but like these children in direct vision, they are essentially a captive audience. Reaching out to them, asking them, building trust with them, and making sure that they're involved in the planning of this transition, in the evaluation of services, in the design of services, in the delivery of services, is not an enormous ask.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is their right. They have this right in under the UNCRC, and that's what the government need to do. They need to start listening to and thinking about and taking seriously children's own experiences and own needs and wants in the system.
Absolutely. That's quite a wonderful call to action, really, to the government. And I suppose we should wrap up by a call to action to everybody that's been watching this Q&A. We would love you to share this far and wide. We need you to share it far and wide. These children deserve to have their stories heard. The government needs to hear it. Decision makers need to hear it. People need to watch and humanize these children. So I would thank everybody for coming along and really encourage everyone who's been here to share this and to talk about this and to really start this conversation about children's rights in direct provision. So thanks so much, Carmel, and thank you so much, Graham.
Thanks, Eva.
Thanks, Aoife.